Jackson Holliday has had the baseball world buzzing. After weeks of speculation from fans and analysis about why he hadn't been called up to the major leagues, he finally made his debut for the Baltimore Orioles on April 10th. The questions surrounding the youngster's big league debut were finally laid to rest. But who exactly is Jackson Holliday? How did he go from a 3-year-old in the Rockies locker room to a #1 draft pick and now the future of MLB? Join me as we take a never-before-seen look into the life of Jackson Holliday. Jackson Holliday was born December 4th, 2003 to Leslie and former MLB star Matt Holliday. Now, being the son of a great athlete with a World Series and 7 All-Star nods doesn't necessarily guarantee that Jackson inherited his father's athletic genes. Just look at Pete Rose Jr., for example. But when your daycare at 3 years old is the Colorado Rockies locker room, I'd say you have a pretty good shot at following in your pop's footsteps. I mean, with a grandpa who used to coach baseball and an uncle coaching at Oklahoma State, it seems like Jackson was bred for the baseball diamond. And Jackson knew from an early age he had no other option but to make it to the MLB.
That's something that I always thought that I could do, and that was always my goal, and I didn't really have
elementary school.
And it was that drive and determination that would see Jackson Holliday become an absolute stud. By the time Jackson was a junior at Stillwater High School in Oklahoma, the kid already had a chip on his shoulder. And rightfully so. It's not like his confidence was unwarranted. With a .500 batting average to go along with 6 homers and 50 RBIs, and being named the Central Oklahoma Athletic Conference Defensive Player of the Year, Jackson certainly earned that chip. It was at this time people started realizing Holliday probably wasn't going to be following up with his commitment to Oklahoma State. His senior year would solidify that choice. Yeah, Jackson was going to the draft, not to college. It was a standout year for the top prospect that saw Jackson get a national record-breaking 89 hits in a single season. This, coupled with his 17 homers, 30 stolen bases, and batting average of .685, had the Orioles chomping at the bit to use their #1 pick on the young Holliday. And it wasn't just Jackson's hitting that had scouts drooling. The kid also snagged an ABCA Rawlings Gold Glove Award and was named the Oklahoma Gatorade Player of the Year, which was basically a family tradition at that point, as both his dad and uncle also received the same award during their high school days. A lot of kids take the summer off after they graduate to find themselves, but Jackson Holliday already knew who he was and didn't have time to take off, as just a few weeks after graduation, Holliday would find himself in the 2022 MLB Draft.
With the first pick of the 2022 MLB Draft, the Baltimore Orioles select Jackson Holliday.
Being the top prospect doesn't always mean you'll be picked first. Just look at Gunnar Henderson. But in the case of Jackson Holliday, was there ever a doubt?
When he reaches his power potential, I don't think he's quite there yet. There's like a couple things to work on, but as we talked about here,
not according to the Baltimore Orioles, who took Jackson as the first pick in the draft that year, and in return would give him the biggest signing deal a high schooler has ever seen. How much do you think it was? Remember that Bryce Harper used to hold the top spot with a $6.25 million signing bonus as a high schooler. So how much did Jackson get? 6.5, maybe 7? How about $8.9 million? The blood, sweat, and tears Jackson poured into baseball finally paid off, literally. Jackson would make his professional debut less than a month after being drafted on August 11th with the rookie-level Florida Complex League Orioles. It took mere days before Holliday was promoted to the Delmarva Shorebirds of the Single-A Carolina League, where he would end 2022 hitting .297 with 9 RBIs and a single homer. 2023 would be the year when the whispers of Jackson's potential of being a big leaguer would really begin. Holliday picked up right where he left off with the Shorebirds, hitting .396 with 16 RBIs in 14 games. The #1 pick would then be promoted twice in 4 short months. First to the High-A Aberdeen Ironbirds, where Holliday hit a solid .314 with 11 doubles, 5 triples, 5 homers, and 35 RBIs. He would ride this wave of momentum to the Double-A Bowie Bay Sox and collect 3 more homers, 9 more doubles, and 3 more triples while hitting an even more solid .338. And he wasn't done yet. On September 4th, Jackson would be promoted yet again, this time to the Triple-A Norfolk Tides. In his 18 games to round out 2023, Holliday hit .267 and added 2 more homers and 9 RBIs to his totals for the year, which was good enough to be named the Baseball America Minor League Player of the Year. Jackson Holliday had all the momentum and swagger to lead him into what would become the biggest year of his career in 2024. Holliday would start the season with an open invitation from the Orioles to join them in spring training, albeit in a non-roster spot. As per usual, Jackson delivered and impressed. This time hitting .311 in 15 games with a pair of homers and 14 hits. Jackson's 15 strikeouts did raise some cause for concern and may have been the reason that, despite the rumblings from coaches and fans alike of making the opening day roster, the O's ultimately decided to keep Jackson in the AAA to start the season. With such a meteoric rise through the minors and a solid showing in spring training, baseball fans were left scratching their heads. Why wasn't there a spot on the Orioles roster for Jackson Holliday? It depends who you ask. Some fans began to speculate the reason for Holliday not getting the call was simply because the Orioles were manipulating Jackson's service time to extend his contract. Knowing that service time manipulation in MLB is fairly common, this wasn't a bad theory. Now, according to O's GM Mike Elias, the answer was quite simple. Jackson Holliday needed more reps at second base and more ABs against lefties. And knowing Jackson went 2 for 14 against lefties with 9 strikeouts in spring training, this was probably the better theory. At just 20 years old, it does make sense for him to gain more experience before he's ready for the big leagues. So that's how Jackson would start the 2024 season, back in the AAA with the Norfolk Tides, but not for long as it would turn out. Jackson had, say it with me, yet again, another solid run with the Tides. After 10 games, he was hitting .333 with 14 hits and 2 homers, making fans wonder just when Holliday would get the call up. Many speculated sometime in May, but it turns out they wouldn't have to wait that long. On April 10th, 2024, Jackson Holliday would receive the news every ballplayer wants to hear. He was going to get a shot at being Benny the Jet Rodriguez and playing the majors.
It's time for him to ask permission to be on Jackson Holliday's pass list. Because you're going to the big leagues.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
A life of dedication to the game he loved so much had finally paid off. He no longer had to worry about filling his dad's shoes because he got a pair of his very own. It was that very day, April 10th, when Jackson Holliday would make his debut in an Orioles uniform against the Red Sox. The baseball world watched in anticipation. How would the highly touted prospect perform under the bright lights? Would it be a career-defining moment, or would the pressure of the big leagues get to the 20-year-old? It turns out, a little bit of both. Immediately, Jackson erased any concerns about his skills playing second when he turned this beautiful double play in the bottom of the second inning. His first at-bat in the top of the third, though, would be a sign of things to come at the plate for the night as it ended in Holliday striking out. The bottom of the third wouldn't be any easier on Holliday. Tyler O'Neill hit a blooper in a shallow right. On paper, I think this should be Cedric Mullen's ball. It's always easier to catch a ball running in rather than running backward. Mullen looks like he's just kind of jogging for the ball anyway and really hung Jackson out to dry. It's not a huge deal, but it just doesn't look great on the kid. He ended up going 0 for 4 in the night, but he did make it to first base in the 5th and got his first big league RBI in the 6th. So, not the stellar debut Jackson was hoping for, but a solid showing for a 20-year-old playing in his first major league game. And while his second base skills have been great so far, it did take Jackson 15 at-bats to finally get his first big league hit on Sunday, April 14th against the Brewers.
First of many. Little two-seam fastball. It never got to the outside part of the plate. It stays up, and Holliday on time. First big league knock for the 20-year-old.
His dad, Matt, his wife, Chloe, in the front row.
It has been quite the journey for Jackson Holliday. From a 3-year-old in the Rockies locker room playing catch with his dad on the field to now having his own locker in Baltimore and turning 2 under the brightest lights baseball has to offer. His future looks promising. With all the talent Jackson Holliday has, along with his work ethic, guidance from his father, and not to mention the seemingly solid head Jackson has on his shoulders, I think the baseball world is this kid's oyster right now. Let's sit back, relax, and let Jackson Holliday find his footing in the big leagues. Because man, once he does, we are in for something special, guys. What do you think Jackson Holliday has in store for us? Will he find his groove in 2024? Let me know in the comments and subscribe to Baseball Buzz.